So Pierre, it's been a month since your last post. How have things been going recently?
Yeah, well, I've been in writer's block recently, so I've been coming up with really creative ways to start to jumpstart ideas on new videos that I make, and I'll say it's going pretty well.
What was your last strategy to come up with new content?
What was the last one?
Yeah.
Well, come on now, Papa's got a video to make. Player must pick a game from the bag of over-discussed video games. The only catch is that you must talk about both the game of choice and the least desirable installment of the same series. Alright, let's see. Just did that. Too easy. Too hard. But wait a minute. The card said I have to do this and the least desirable installment of the series. So if I'm doing Melee, that means I have to do...
And everything's going perfectly fine?
Oh, no. It's only going to benefit my content. Everything's been going perfectly smooth. No problems at all.
The Super Smash Bros. Franchise has been a prosperous and attention-grabbing force in the video game industry for the last 22 years. As one of the best-selling franchises in the gaming sphere, Smash has morphed from a unique startup fighter that put its name out there using the likeness of Nintendo's most familiar faces to gaming's biggest crossover that celebrates iconic characters from the world of Nintendo and beyond. With 6 official installments in the series now, the eras of Smash have gone on to define the childhoods of millions of people, with all having very diverging experiences due to the differences that characterized each edition. Back before the turn of the millennium, Smash 64 developed a charming, simple, and jagged style that would lay the blueprint for the Super Smash formula. Smash for Wii U and 3DS would begin to test the limits of the Smash roster and introduce the series to handheld. Ultimate would throw all the chips on the table and brand itself as the all-encompassing celebration of Smash. But in those years in between the franchise's humble introduction in 1999 and its roster reunion on the Nintendo Switch, 2 installments in particular would highlight both the optimized potential and the polarizing kinks of the Smash series. Those titles are the first sequel of the series in 2001's Super Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube and its follow-up 7 years later in 2008 in Super Smash Bros. Brawl for the Wii. In this video, we'll overview why the gaming community has developed unique opinions of each game in retrospect, as well as why, at the end of the day, Melee and Brawl best reflect the Smash Bros. Series as 2 sides of the same coin. Let's talk about it. It's no news that Melee has been heralded as the golden child of the Super Smash Bros. Series. After a 2-year development period following the first Smash and Smash 64, I have to credit it for being the title to expand on the true potential that the series held in its earliest glimpses in the 64-bit era, and it cemented many of the series' most known characteristics. Because of the nature of innovation that came with Melee, much of the fanbase looked to the title as the real beginning of the series, seeing 64 as something similar to a demo rather than a fully fleshed debut. However, I think Melee is often overcredited in this aspect, as it was the second installment in the franchise. A sequel on a new console is bound to make some leaps in concept and execution, and while you have to give props to the way it was handled with Melee, I believe it would have been a natural progression of a series to have jump in quality and production. For example, compare the opening cutscenes of Smash 64 to Melee, and how they are viewed by the Smash Collective online. Melee's opening is hailed as one of the most iconic in gaming, but it was really just an efforted progression of the original. What really justifies the elite standard and legend that Melee is held to is all the intangibles it offered as a game. The game's aesthetic was polished and smooth, colorful and consistent. New additions in the game's playable roster would burst open the Nintendo catalog from the original 12 to 26 different fighters. Sensible inclusions that were left out previously, like Mewtwo, Bowser, Peach, Zelda, and Ganon, would come along, as well as old school shoutouts to the Ice Climbers, Mr. Game & Watch, and Dr. Mario. Marth and Roy from the Fire Emblem series would also appear, notably marking the franchise's first appearance outside of Japan. And while in-game models are dated, the product as a whole has aged incredibly well visually. Many game modes and assets like Multi-Man Melee, the Home Run Contest, the Special Melees, and collecting trophies would become mainstays in the series in one way or another. And the Adventure Mode teased at the single-player story potential that Smash had in merging the worlds of their participating IPs. It's also well known that the gameplay of Melee is the blueprint of competitive Smash. The game moves at a fast and weighted pace that best allowed comp players to take advantage of both the game's flaws and perfections to create the most entertaining, exciting, and electric meta competitively. Due to the unintentional success of said comp meta, Melee has extended its lifespan exponentially and has created a legacy in the fighting genre and gaming industry as a whole that is much greater than itself. The waves of names that have come and gone, buzzing the competitive industry and birthing narratives and storylines that rival traditional sports, made Melee a crowd-drawing venue for the esports scene. The fact that the game has failed to even show a true glimpse of falling off 20 years later is a testament to its impact in esports, as well as to the fact that the installments that followed would fail to allure a competitive audience that would overshadow the powerhouse that was Melee. Now consider that in context to the Smash Bros. Series and go back to the year 2005. Melee is a massive hit and the series has been launched into the stratosphere in every aspect. The game is the best-selling title for the GameCube and a successor to the console is on the way. At the reveal for what would become the Nintendo Wii, the late, great Satoru Iwata would unofficially announce the next installment of the Super Smash Bros. Franchise. The following day, he would meet with Sakurai and development would commence. 3 years of development would pass, and nearly 7 since the release of Melee. The build-up for this game, unveiled to be titled Brawl, would be astronomical as fans were antsy to see where the series would go next following the Blue Ribbon Melee. And the reveals that came through platforms like the Smash Dojo would do little to hinder the expectations that Brawl would garnish as the game's launch approached sooner and sooner. Finally, on March 9, 2008, Super Smash Bros. Brawl for the Nintendo Wii would officially release in North America. And for most, the expectations were not met. Now, just to get this out of the way, Brawl was my first full experience with the Smash Bros. Series. Saying that I have fond memories of this game would be a massive understatement. I played Brawl so much in the very early 2010s that I burned my Wii's disk drive to oblivion and ended up losing my original copy completely because of it. I love Brawl. There is a lot to commend and cherish about the title, and I feel as if it is overhated in the community to an extent. That being said, it would be unwise and severely biased to ignore the flaws and failures that Brawl had as a game. As ambitious as Brawl was, there was always something that countered every positive step it took. Brawl was monumental in that it was the first Smash to finally jump the shark and allow third-party characters to join the roster, shifting the game from a celebration of Nintendo's All-Stars to a celebration of iconic figures in gaming in general. The very first being Solid Snake was jarring, but the addition of Sonic the Hedgehog all but made up for the initial reaction to Snake's addition, as well as the long wait it took for the blue blur to finally be implemented in Smash. New first-party fighters were exciting as well. Long requested fighters like Wario, Diddy Kong, Meta Knight, King Dedede, refreshing additions like Olimar, Pokemon Trainer, Lucas, and Wolf, and charming retro nods like Rob and Pit, the latter who until Brawl hadn't been seen in a game in 17 years. But with these new additions, Brawl would remove a decent chunk of their veteran portion. Young Link was cut, replaced by Toon Link, a sensible change since the Wind Waker art style had branched into many Zelda titles following 2003 and was more prominent to represent. Roy, Dr. Mario, and Pichu were removed as well, likely to cut the fat of the roster by ridding of the more unnecessary clone characters. The only real jarring exclusion was Mewtwo, the staple Pokemon who wasn't a clone in-game, and despite the outrage of his removal, he would be replaced by the more trending Lucario, as Diamond and Pearl had released only 11 months before Brawl's launch in North America. The game's art style was distinctive from the rest of the series in the least appealing way possible. In an attempt to show graphical progress between two systems that were basically the same in firepower, the decision was made to give Brawl a grit-tinted and unsaturated look. At times it was interesting, but family-friendly characters like Yoshi, Jigglypuff, and Kirby looked so out of place in this T-for-teen aesthetic at the end of the day. In place of adventure mode was the Subspace Emissary, an ambitious attempt to flesh out the blueprint of Melee's bare-bone version that falls flat on its face by being generic, dull, and just too long. The only saving grace being the charming CGI cutscenes that would display interactions between the Brawl roster in ways meant to connect the weirdly loose and uninspiring story. I played hours of this mode, and all I really remember is how everyone loved Samus and Pikachu teaming up, and how Sonic was the Deus Ex Machina at the end. Before addressing the worst violation of Brawl, I have to praise the largest positive. The sheer amount of content that was available via the Vault was mind-blowing to me as a child. From the trophy gallery to the coin launcher minigame, the sticker album, the stage builder, the 128 challenges, the demos of iconic titles in the Masterpieces lineup, to the Chronicles list, which is just a written record of every single Nintendo published game up to that point. It was an astounding amount of accessibility and additional content that educated a lot of young Nintendo kids like myself, who learned of many games through the gateway of Smash. That being said, where Melee birthed a beautiful competitive meta, Brawl would completely fall short in an attempt to conform to Wii's most dominant audience, casual gamers. Making Brawl a more accessible Smash decimated the competitive gameplay. The game was slower and lighter than Melee, and many of Melee's competitive strategies were nerfed significantly or removed entirely, and players would randomly trip for literally no justifiable reason. The CPU in-game was abysmal. The introduction of Wi-Fi play was disastrous as well, with the gameplay being choppy and unenjoyable for many. Yet despite all of the negatives that have been taken away from Brawl's contents in retrospect, I believe it remains the second most important title to the series.
Final results.
While I prefaced this video referring to the two games as two sides of the same coin, a better example would be Yin and Yang. The basic definition of Yin and Yang is as follows. In ancient Chinese philosophy, Yin and Yang is a concept of dualism describing how seemingly opposite or contrary forces may be complementary, interconnected, and interdependent in the natural world, and how they may give rise to each other as they interrelate to one another. See, this is where the differences between Melee and Brawl merge to develop the overarching beauty of the Super Smash Bros. Series. Melee was a game that was birthed with nowhere to go but up, and Brawl was a game doomed from the start due to impossible expectations and unfathomable hype. The peaks of Melee that are held to the highest regards, the aesthetic, the gameplay, the characters, the blueprints of the franchise, all display one part of what makes Smash fantastic. Brawl's risk-taking, the abundance of secondary content, the attention to detail, the birth of its impact on the internet, and consistency to a concept, whether it was positive or negative, represent the other part of the franchise. Together, it cemented the foundation of what Smash stands on. In the games that would follow, in Smash 4 and in Ultimate, it became ideal for both great gameplay and design, as well as more out there characters and immeasurable extras to be in the game. While Melee's impact is always given its flowers, Brawl deserves some as well. Although the series still suffers from flaws, and many may not be as satisfied with the Smash series as Melee or Brawl, look towards our current installment in Ultimate. Compare it to the roster of Melee, and it is massive and outlandish. The abundance of spirits and the presence of the vault, that level of shark jumping, that was first grounded in Brawl. The return of wave dashing and the effort to push competitive play is a result of the lingering weight that Melee holds in the series. No other titles in the short lineage of Smash have left a greater mark on the series' DNA than the two aforementioned. All in all, the Super Smash Bros. Series is a blue ribbon, Nintendo-curated celebration of gaming's icons. And in an unintentional and almost backhanded fashion, Super Smash Bros. Melee and Super Smash Bros. Brawl would consecutively and interdependently exemplify the complexities of the series that would ultimately be the defining characteristics that the masses praise the franchise for. If you ask around the community to see what people hold as the best installment, many may say Melee, others may say Brawl. Hell, some may even say Smash 4 or Ultimate. But to truly understand the roots of what makes Smash a standout in the industry, you have to tap into a little bit of both worlds. I've been your host, Pierre. As always, take care, good game, and thanks for watching. Peace!